Welcome to Broadstairs Life, where I speak with the people who make Broadstairs such a special place. Welcome to Broadstairs Life. Today I'm sat in Dickens House and I'm sat here with Darren, and you are the curator, would that be correct?
I'm kind of the curator, that's one of my jobs.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm the museums manager for Thanet District Council.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had a museums manager since 1994,
Right.
and I've been in the job 18 months now.
Ah.
So I have overall responsibility for Dickens House,
Yeah.
but also the Clock House down on Ramsgate Harbour,
Right.
and Margate Museum as well,
Oh, really?
which we're looking
So
to
you flip
redevelop.
between them all?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do a day here, a day there. Always Thursdays though for Dickens House.
Always Thursdays, right. What is the room that we're sat in at the moment? Because we've got a big window in front of us, we're overlooking Viking Bay, and, you know, it's an iconic building, this, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So what room are we in at the moment?
Well, we're currently sat in what was the dining room
Mm-hmm.
of Dickens House. Now, it wasn't actually Dickens House in Dickens' time, it was number 2 Knuckles Place.
Right.
So Victoria Parade hadn't been named for Queen Victoria at that point either.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually the Georgian extension of a far older house that was built, we think, in the late Tudor period. So it's actually half of the house is one of the oldest buildings in Broadstairs.
Really?
When this was built in the late 18th century, it became the dining room for the family of Stephen Knuckle.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen Knuckle married a lady called Anne Strong.
Right.
Anne Strong happened to be the sister of a Mary Pearson Strong.
Right.
And Mary Pearson Strong was the inspiration for Betsey Trotwood in Dickens's David Copperfield. She lived here when Dickens was actually visiting.
Really?
So we're sat in the dining room.
Yeah.
We've got a display of various lithographs and prints from Dickens's novels, from the illustrations done by a gentleman called Phiz, whose real name was Lancelot Hablot Knight Brown. Try saying that after a Good Friday night.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, that is a bit of a name, isn't it?
And
That's
also
a bit of a name.
a variety of prints of portraits of Dickens himself over time, and quite a lot of memorabilia and some of his first editions.
Wow.
And the key item is a Georgian sideboard,
Yeah.
which he bought second hand for his first home in London.
So this actually belonged?
That belonged to him. It's actually,
Charles Dickens?
Yeah, and it's older than Dickens himself. This was actually made probably about 1790, and he bought it second hand. And there is a letter to his then new wife, Catherine Hogarth, saying he's bought this piece of furniture for their new home in Doughty Street.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful mahogany walnut,
Which is in the West End, isn't it?
Yeah.
Downstairs.
Well, it's just off of what's the word I want? I can never remember the name of it. If you were stood on Chancery Lane,
yeah.
and walking up towards King's Cross and St Pancras,
Oh, it's up that way.
it's on a side street halfway along Gray's Inn Road.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Just off of Gray's Inn Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was their first married home, and they lived there for 2 years. That's now the home of the Charles Dickens Museum. It's the only surviving home of his in London.
Really?
It also inspired a GP in the 1970s to build a doll's house,
Right.
which he produced a book about. It sat just behind you, if you look around, there's actually a doll's house, and that is actually the house from Doughty Street. So the sideboard would have actually been used in there.
Yeah.
He then later sold it to I think it was a legal student in the 1860s, and eventually it was bought by the family of Dora Tatum, who bought this house in 1918.
And then, isn't it strange, isn't it, how it's gone around?
Yeah. So if you could hold some sort of recorder to it that would kind of like pull the stories out, literally out of the wood, the things it could tell
It'd be
you.
incredible, wouldn't it?
So it would have sat in Dickens's dining room.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been, sounds a bit strange to say witness, but as a piece of furniture. But, you know, he would have been entertaining famous people that he was associating with, actors, other poets, writers. So that sideboard's seen some interesting conversations in its time.
Yeah.
It really has.
And as you say, if we could draw them out,
Yeah.
what stories would it tell? It would be so interesting. I'll just pick up on something you said. You said about the knuckle fact. Now, knuckles in Broadstairs are so. I mean, they're sort of the backbone of some of it because
Yes.
where I live, we've got Knuckles Almshouse.
And the charity that is still in existence
exactly
is endowed by the Knuckles, and also
Yeah.
the Mary Pearson Strong charity,
Mm.
who was obviously Dickens' friend and
Yeah.
the inspiration for Betsey Trotwood.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of direct Broadstairs and St Peter's connections with this house.
Yeah, very much, very much. So, in relation to this now, this is a museum that is based and in homage, really, to Charles Dickens, because he didn't just use this place, did he, down here? He stayed in various places in Broadstairs.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Albion Hotel and what happened there, and what he wrote, or what he got the idea for.
Well, there was, like you say, there are several places, some of which no longer exist in Broadstairs, where he stayed.
Yeah.
The first thing I should say straight away though is he never actually stayed in this building.
He never stayed.
He never stayed in here.
But he visited.
He visited very regularly.
Right.
So that's something we have to say to all of our visitors. Like,
Yeah.
could we go and see the bedroom? Whatever. We have to say, sorry, he didn't actually stay here. And then we say he was very good friends with the lady that lived here.
Yeah.
We then have to explain, because you get a few raised eyebrows, because he had a bit of a reputation later in life for consorting with younger women, that in fact the lady that lived here was literally a friend.
Yeah.
And much older as well.
Yeah. And hence him coming here.
Yes, yeah, one of the reasons. I mean, he found a sense of calm and peace here.
You can understand why, though.
Yeah. Well, he initially, when he came to this part of East Kent, he stayed in Ramsgate, and he found it too busy for him.
Right.
So he then started coming to Broadstairs from 1837 onwards. And there are a number of works that were written here, or parts of works.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't write a complete novel here, but there are parts of the town and the inhabitants of the time that inspired characters.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Mary Pearson Strong here inspired Betsey Trotwood and David Copperfield.
Yeah.
But then there are other events. When he was staying in Bleak House in 1850, he saw a terrible nighttime storm, and that then finds its way into David Copperfield as well.
Really?
But one of the best known novels in the world, and it's quite a short novel as things go, has also got a bit of a largely unknown connection with Broadstairs, and that's A Christmas Carol.
Right.
That's been in continuous print since it was published in the 1840s. But what inspired that was actually a dream he had one night while staying in the Albion Hotel. And not many people realise that the whole idea of A Christmas Carol, one of the most loved novels across the world, one of the most adapted for film, theatre and television.
Very much so.
Across the world as well, in various different languages.
And it seems to reoccur all the time, doesn't it? In a new fashion, doesn't it? Somebody takes their own and adapts it. So
that's that whole idea about redemption, I think, and the chance to kind of make things right and lead a better life. I think that's as valuable a lesson now as it was back in the 1840s when he wrote the novel. And you think about the world, how it is. I mean, Dickens had a darker side in the way he treated his wife, things like that. Not such a nice person in that respect, but some of the kind of more moral side of him and what he thought of redemption and looking after people less well off than him,
would you say that Dickens was a forward-thinking man in some respects?
Yes,
or was he just a man who took everything in?
I think it's a bit like that Shakespearean quote about holding a mirror to life in a way.
Yeah.
I think he very much did that. But obviously, one of his first jobs as an adult, he was a reporter and reporting in Parliament, in the courts and things like that. So he was very much, kind of like reflecting on life. But was he a forward thinker? He's very politically active, actually.
Really?
Yeah. It's that side of him that people always think of the books, but there was a lot more to him. I mean, he was also a bit of an actor. I mean, one of the things we've got here in the dining room on the wall, just by the fireplace, is a print of him as an actor.
Yeah.
And he actually was doing a few productions, kind of almost like a producer as well, in a small theatre in London as well. And obviously later on he was well known for giving public performances of some of his works as well. So he had a special little platform.
Did he ever do that down here?
I've not found anything myself that he actually did readings here, because I think Broadstairs for him was very much about getting away from that public-facing side of things.
It was his place to chill, basically.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things also that kind of stopped him coming. His last visit was only literally for a day in 1862, but he hadn't visited for a number of years before that. And I think he'd become quite well known in the area that he couldn't relax, and obviously by that point he was also visiting not just America on lecture, but he was spending a lot of time in places like Italy as well on holiday. So
I didn't realise he travelled as much.
Yeah, travelled quite a bit.
Yeah,
I mean, he did two tours of America. The first in, I think it was the 1840s, and he didn't come back with a very favourable impression of the place. And then he went.
I wonder what you think now.
Yeah, well, and then he went in the 1860s, the late 1860s.
Yeah.
And obviously, in between those two visits, you had the American Civil War.
Yes.
So he would have seen two quite different Americas in the space of 20 or so years.
Yeah. But he had a draw to Broadstairs.
Yeah.
Now, in your museum, you've got lots of original items from Dickens, and you were showing me some items earlier of his handwritten letters, and these are all by him.
Yes.
So they're priceless, aren't they? And they're unique.
The thing is, they are unique in each letter itself and what it contains. But there are thousands of Dickens letters around the world.
Really?
Some of them are actually concentrated in important collections, like Doughty Street, the Charles Dickens Museum in London, in national museums and other things. We're lucky to have 5 or 6 here.
Yeah.
But
it's just the fact that they're the originals.
Yeah, but you've got to bear in mind, for him, writing a letter was like us sending an email or a text, because that was the way the communication. That is why there's so much of a legacy. But it's all things that he sent to other people. It's one of the things that happened after he died, that all of his personal letters and such like, they were all burnt at Gad's Hill on his expressed wishes in his will. He didn't want that. So it was
so much more.
Yeah, there would have been. Yeah.
Wow.
And of course that then sparks off. There's stories about the affair that he had with a much younger woman, an actress. Whether that really was an affair, or was it his illegitimate daughter from an earlier affair in the 1830s? There's all these sorts of interesting things. Of course, one of the things is that that young actress and her mother were travelling with him in a railway carriage, which was involved in the Staplehurst crash, which we reference in the dining room as well. With
I can see that up there.
And he helped look after a number of the injured, but he didn't want to be recognised because of the scandal of being caught with a younger woman. But this with her mother as well.
Yeah.
And that authors have picked up on that. And said, well, was he having an affair with her, or was he his daughter? And the other lady in the carriage was actually the person he had the affair with. And by this point, he'd already tried to commit his wife, Catherine, to an asylum as well.
So he did have a really dark side.
Yes, I think it would be fair to say he was a very rounded personality in both light and dark.
Yeah, but he was a pillar of literacy, wasn't he?
Yeah, and also
and still is.
Yeah, and also seen as at the time as quite a moral pillar as well. He was working on charities that looked after prostitutes, or as they called them, fallen women at the time, and other things like that. And obviously, his stories like not just David Copperfield, but more like Oliver Twist, and the whole idea of
See, we all remember Dickens stories from when we were kids, because we weren't made to read them, but we did read them. I just remember David Copperfield. I remember Oliver. I mean, look at Oliver. Look how that's transformed over the years. It's become famous movies. It's become famous stage shows. So it's not going away, is it? Dickens is not going away in any way, shape or form.
And I think, ironically, and certainly from the 1940s onwards, he's probably become even more famous, but not through actually reading his books. But Sir David Lean's adaptation of the story with Miss Havisham in as well, with Sir John Mills. I think I can remember as a child seeing that. I think that was what made in just after the Second World War.
It was. I think it was. Yeah.
Great Expectations.
Yeah. Fantastic film.
And then you've got.
And they're still good now.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's the storytelling, isn't it? It's the narrative behind them and everything that because you take away a little bit, don't you? So getting back to this house museum, I should say, actually, or house. What can people expect when they come in? I don't want you to give too much away, but there is so much in here, isn't there?
Well, the first thing that people will find when they get here is a very warm welcome.
Yeah.
Although I'm effectively the overall manager and curator, we have a really good visitor services manager, Jane, who everyone will meet on the till when they first get their ticket. And then we have a superb team of volunteers. Yeah. Every single person that comes through the door gets a personal welcome from them and
we're a big volunteer society down here, aren't we, in Broadstairs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely huge.
And it makes it the visit because everyone comes into the dining room, they get a short introductory talk about the house, Dickens, and its place in Broadstairs and his story with Broadstairs as well. Some of those volunteers are so keen they come in full Victorian costumes.
I've seen. I think it's brilliant.
That this afternoon we've got one of our volunteers, Linda, will be with us for the afternoon, and she'll be dressing as a servant.
Really?
So you get that
draws you in, doesn't it?
Yeah. You get that very personal welcome and that very personal bit of storytelling, and then we send people off around the house. Sometimes we go around with them, or we let them self-guide.
Do people ask for a guided tour?
Sometimes they do. Yeah. Generally that's freely given, but we have in the past done book tours as well. We do, because you can actually visit us when we're closed by special prior arrangement for groups, for instance. So we have a very active group visits program with local language schools, for instance.
Have you ever had any of the people who've played Charles Dickens come here or have been in his films or shows?
Well, it's funny you should say that because obviously one of the more recent, and I say recent in inverted commas because this would have been in the late 1990s, was the Copperfield adaptation with Daniel Radcliffe, who then went on to be Harry Potter.
Of course, he did.
The Betsey Trotwood in that short BBC series was actually a very, very famous and rather favourite actress of mine who recently died. And she went on to star in Lady in the Van. Both on the stage and also in the film and
Maggie Smith.
A certain Maggie Smith.
Yeah.
And of course she subsequently, when they did the film version of Lady in the Van, they filmed a lot of it in Broadstairs.
They did. Just up the road actually as well, didn't they?
Yeah, and down on the beach, and they actually had the coach pulling up along the promenade here as though it was the beachside road.
Yeah.
And I'd lived in Yorkshire for 10 years before moving down here to do this job, and I'd bought Lady in the Van on Amazon. No plug for Amazon, by the way.
No.
But the film to watch, and I'd never got around to watch it. 8 years later, I was going through scrolling, and by that point, I'm working here. I thought, I never actually watched that, even though I bought it to watch. Yeah. So I watched it about 3 months after I started this job, and I thought, because I'd seen Maggie Smith in loads of things, but I thought I've got to watch this because and I also like Alan Bennett plays. Yeah. And I'm watching there, and I'm at home watching on the laptop. Oh, that's Broadstairs. That's that old people's home up there, and then she's down on the beach.
Yeah.
I thought she played Betsey Trotwood, and the next day I live in Ramsgate. I didn't quite run through the park to get here. Yeah. But the first thing I did when I trotted, good pun. And the first thing I did, I went through all of the visitor books to see if she'd actually, because Maggie Smith is known as a really passionate museum and gallery visitor as well in her own time. I thought, please let her signature be in the visitors book with a nice comment. Of course, it would have been filmed during the close season, but it's just like. But we did a little bit when she passed away on the museum social media.
Oh, really? That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think there have been a number of Betsey Trotwoods played over the years, and you got to. in my mind, it was like that portrayal is actually of the woman that lived in this building, the person that inspired that character as well.
Yeah.
I think the only other person that's played more recently is Sally Field.
Yeah, Sally Field. Yeah.
And is that the private life of David Copperfield? The Inanna Amucci. I've said that completely wrong.
Oh yeah, I know the guy you mean.
Yeah.
Amucci, yeah.
Yeah. But I think for me, of all of the portrayals I've seen of Betsey Trotwood, it's probably Maggie Smith that I think caught her the most.
Do you? I mean, looking at this place, I mean, it just oozes history. And do you get a buzz from that, being able to work in a place like this?
It's a bit of a funny question to answer, actually, because I do it every day, and not just here. Wherever I've worked in museums, I've worked at the RAF Museum at Hendon. I worked at the Imperial War Museum. I was head of collections at the National Coal Mining Museum, so it's like a day-to-day thing for me, like working with history.
So museums is in the blood.
Having a conversation with because literally sometimes you're talking to a 5,000-year-old skeleton in a box from an archaeology dig, and you think, I've got to do this. And people turn around like you've just done and say, well, you must have a really interesting job. And I have to actually, sometimes I literally have to step back and think, well, actually, I'm pretty bloody lucky, if you excuse the cussing, to actually have this job. And everyone leaves at the end of the day. You lock the door. It is.
It's a privilege.
You lock the door, and then I have a pair of gloves, and I'll open the drawers on the sideboard, and then you kind of think, well, all right, so it's a sideboard we know is in its dining room, but because you get the chance to then work with these things, then you open the drawer and you find that one of the drawers is lead lined, so it could hold ice, and it's got a bottle station. So that means actually Dickens isn't just having it, using it for having his food served off of in the dining room in Doughty Street. It's got chilled wine in it. I mean, and then suddenly you build all this picture of all this chilled wine. So he's going to be sitting there having very worthy conversations with his contemporaries over a glass of something Chablis or something. I don't know what wine he drank, but something you're taking this object and it's become a coat hanger for all these ideas and real history around it as well. And it's like, I get to do that. But
that's my job.
But the real pleasure is I get to share it with everyone.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, because that, otherwise it is. If people don't look at it, it's a bit like that whole thing about, if no one hears that tree crash in a remote forest, does that tree really exist?
Yeah.
It's that whole idea, like, well, if people don't see the objects, they don't get the history that's kind of draped over them. And that's missing. So that's the real thing for me. It's not some. The objects, the history is really important, but if you can't share it with anyone, then it's not a story, because it can only be a story if it's been told.
Yeah. So you're open throughout the year?
We open basically for what we call the main season. So we open for Easter. So if we say that we have an April to end of October year, and we open on a Wednesday to a Sunday, 10 till 4.
Okay.
Last entry at 4 o'clock.
And do people have to book, or can they just turn up?
Generally, just turn up. But we do say, if you were like in a fairly large group, like more than 10 people, then give us a call beforehand. Because if we've got 50 German students in...
Oh yeah, because we've got all the students here, haven't we?
It's just so that we can phase things through, so it's comfortable for everyone. Because obviously, with it being a small building, and an old building, we have to be mindful of the amount of weight that we're putting on the floors and ceilings and that sort of thing. So,
what's the best item in here? I'm going to put you on the spot now.
The best item,
the way you can actually say to people now, look at this. Is there something that stands out for you? I mean, maybe just for you, or generally.
That's a good one, and it's a really hard one to answer.
I mean, I've only been in here a few minutes.
So the sideboard.
The sideboard to me is
it's
tactile, even though we can't touch it, but it's there, isn't it?
I have. We have got a new display in one of the rear rooms now, which is a chronological history.
This was one you were just showing me before we started chatting, wasn't it?
Yeah. Charles Dickens' time in Broadstairs. So over a 20-year period, he spent a total of over 2 years here. So he spent a fair bit of time here, one way or another. And I'd say there's probably two things in there. The first thing, there is a writing slope. So it looks like a large jewellery box, but it folds out open, and it's a slope
quite big
for
as
writing.
well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it'd be heavy.
Yeah. So that was his equivalent of a laptop. He took that to America on his tour, second tour in the late 1860s, given to him by his friend John Forster. And although we're pretty sure he never wrote any part of his novels when he was touring out there, he would have written several hundred letters on that writing slope. So
I love it, several hundred,
probably several. Well, I think he was there for quite a period of time, and like we send emails or texts today, we do that so regularly. Obviously, no telephone either at that point.
Of course.
Well, telephones were coming in, but the transatlantic cables were starting to get laid at that point. It could be that writing slope, because literally the velvet facing on the slope there, that would have felt the pressure of his pen. He would have been leaning as he wrote on that. That's probably one, but there is a second, and there's a thing called it's like a calling card. So the Victorians went through a whole series like calling cards, carte de visite, which had like a photograph on you saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm here to see Mr. Smith. He's not in, I'm afraid. Sorry, sir." And you'd leave your carte de visite or your calling card, whatever. And we've got one of his calling cards in the new display. And on it, he's left it with the Albion Hotel with a note that he will be expecting so many guests for dinner that evening, but they will be bringing their own fish with them. And then it's just literally like one line. Yeah. But then from that, you're suddenly thinking, so who's bringing the fish?
Where are they getting the fish from?
Is it the fishermen themselves? Because you know to go and have a chat with everyone. He writes about Broadstairs in 1850 in his work Our Watering Place, which goes on to be called Our English Watering Place, and it's literally a love letter to Broadstairs. It's also one of the things that probably makes Broadstairs so popular that he stops visiting, because he's made it so popular that he himself feels that he's not getting the chill that he needs away from the work. But that little card, it will only just cover the palm of your hand, but that idea of they're bringing their fish, he's having a meal with friends, or is it with the fishermen, or what? And so suddenly you're drawing this whole kind of
trying to work it out.
Yeah, but then you're suddenly doing what he does. You're taking an idea and you're building a story around it. It's the same with the sideboard. The fact that it can hold ice, and actually, if it's holding ice, he's chilling wine. And then, and so it's kind of not so much like, you read his works and his literary stuff, but with all these items, you're actually it's drawing kind of more of a picture of the man himself and what he would have been doing. Because I don't think people know Dickens as well as they think they do. But when you see some of the objects in here, it pulls together more of the
and I
real
think
person.
What's good is you're not giving too much away, because there's so much more in here, isn't there? So people come down, that's the best way to do it, because, like I said, it's not right to give all those little interesting bits away, is it? Because this is a museum and it is a place to visit, and it's history, and it's in Broadstairs. So you've got the best of both worlds, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Really, when you think about it.
It's sunny day. Lovely with it coming through the windows. You think, actually, we want to be outside, but sunny day, perfect place to come in to have a bit of a cool out of the sunlight time for an hour in the museum, and of course heating either side of the busy part of the year. Nice and warm, still have the view, but you're not in the rain and the clouds.
The other thing I wanted to mention and ask you about, Dickens Festival.
Yes.
Which is a very important part of Broadstairs, and this year it's going to be a revamped version, isn't it? So how do you guys get involved with the Dickens Festival as well?
So what happens is that we're kind of gradually building things up from what used to happen, because generally we have the Dickens Declaimers. They will use Knuckles Garden, which is the garden that belongs to the house on the opposite side of the parade. They will do a Saturday afternoon performance. But this year some of our volunteers are also doing performances in the house or outside the house, depending on the weather, each afternoon, Friday, Saturday and Sunday as well.
Wonderful.
So they'll be doing short adaptations of some of his shorter works.
Oh, really?
And we're planning to do that for Halloween this year, because obviously Dickens also wrote over 20 ghost stories. But the festival actually is quite important to the house in a sense because two ladies that lived here, Dora Tatum from 1918, also Gladys Waterer. Gladys Waterer was a leading light in the creation of the festival, along with a couple of other people. But she then went on to adapt most Dickens's novels for performance as a proper full-scale performance for each festival through the years.
Yeah.
And she lived in the house from just after the Second World War with Dora Tatum. When Dora died in the early 1950s, Gladys was left the chance to continue to live in the house for as long as she wanted to. And Dora actually specified in the will that Gladys could live here as long as she wanted to.
Really?
But the moment that Gladys was unable to live in here, in fact she died, I think she died in a local hospital, but she was pretty much here to her last day. Yeah. At that moment then the house was to be turned into a Dickens Museum of local and national interest in perpetuity. So Dora's will was very
So this is a safe place. It's
safe
never
place.
going to go.
There will be a museum here of one sort or another relating to Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
I can't read a crystal ball, but there will always be something here. There's a very strong protection here, but the
Dickens will always carry on.
Yeah.
His legacy.
Yeah.
Because it's so huge, isn't it? And I think Broadstairs is very proud of the fact that we've got Bleak House overlooking Viking Bay. We've got this house here, which is now the museum. We've got little blue plaques sort of around the town.
And some marble ones as well.
So there's the connection is absolutely huge, isn't it?
I mean, like I said just now, if you bear in mind that he spent 2 years of his life in total in this town. I mean, he only spent 2 years living in the one surviving house he had in London, in Doughty Street. So, so
it's a huge legacy, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have left with his relationship with Broadstairs.
Yeah.
Because bearing in mind, he went lots of other places. But isn't it strange how this has been quite a focal point?
Yeah, it's quite funny because I used to work in Folkestone for a little while, obviously live in Ramsgate, and there are blue plaques to Charles Dickens. I would say most seaside towns on the south coast. Yeah, I think that's undeniable one way or another. Yeah. But the concentration of plaques in Broadstairs is just kind of...
There is quite a funny one though, isn't there? Have you seen it? The one outside the Old Curiosity.
Yeah.
Charles Dickens never had a cup of tea here, I think it says, which I just think it's humour, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's all part of the Broadstairs thing. So you've let us know when you're open, etc. Is there anything more you like? What would you say to somebody who's coming down to Broadstairs about coming to visit this museum? What would you encourage them to come in and to visit?
How would I put that?
Yeah.
I think really it's about how, if you want to know about Dickens and his inspirations and what inspired him, come to Broadstairs. Yeah. The fact that Betsey Trotwood is such a rounded character based on a real person that lived in this house. I mean, there's very few places where you can actually go with a Dickens connection where it's actually so... Literally, it's within the stones of the building, that connection.
Absolutely.
Through the ownership. Mary Pearson Strong would have been tending the garden, and then that would have been the same garden that Betsey Trotwood would have been tending when the young David Copperfield, and that's the garden. It's there.
It's there. It's in front of us, isn't it? Are there photographs of Dickens in Broadstairs?
I've not seen any myself.
No,
you've got to bear in mind the idea of seaside photography, for instance.
Yeah.
That's only just starting. That period is sort of like in that kind of mid to late Victorian. And obviously the thing is then that the technology. Yeah. You had to have such a long exposure that most photography was studio photography because you had to be still.
Well, you see with the photographs of Dickens.
Yeah, it's very and he
don't move.
Probably would have had like a little, not a clamp as such, but he would have had something holding his neck. So you see photos of Broadstairs as it would have been in the 1880s, 1890s.
Yeah,
we have a couple on display here because the exposure is so long, you don't really see people in them because they're moving.
That's right.
More quick.
They disappear from the shot, so to speak.
So, no, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any surviving photos. It would have taken quite a bit. I mean, the Crimean War, I know we're going off on really tangents,
no, that's all right.
but that was one of the first times actually where they were able to take photographs out in situ of, in this case, the battlefield and the dead and things. But to be able to do that, they literally had a horse, and not just a cart, but like a big enclosed wagon, because they had to have a mobile dark room, a mobile this and a mobile that.
You couldn't do that here, could you?
No. I mean, they were using something called wet collodion. So big glass plate, silver nitrate in with a collodion solution, which is kind of like a viscous thing. You pour it over the glass plate, whiz it around a bit to get
an
an
easy process, is it?
And then you've got wind, you've got sand.
Yeah, exactly.
All of that. So
That's what I was just thinking about. I'm going to ask you, what do you think Dickens would think of his legacy? Because you've got so much knowledge on Dickens.
That's an interesting one.
Because he has left a legacy.
Yes, definitely. I think he was aware that people were going to carry on having an interest in him, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why he specified that all his personal papers should have been burned. Because I think he built a persona, and that persona might not necessarily have been the man behind the persona. So I think the word curated, for me, as a curator, gets used too much these days. For our curated menu, this, our curated that. We've curated our retail offering of our vegan-friendly shoes. All these sorts of. You think that's not really curating, as I understand it. But I think he very carefully curated his public persona, and I think he curated it in such a way that he knew that when he was gone, his legacy had to be presented in a particular way. So when you get these researchers and authors that are writing about the kind of the more unknown and kind of guessed at aspects of his life, like the affairs with the younger actors and things, I think he was aware that there was going to be that interest. So I think that he knew that he was going to be.
I think he'd be proud.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know what you make of watching his stories on film.
I think he probably would have had a little bit of a laugh to himself as well. Yeah. But I think he knew that quite early on. I think when you look at like A Christmas Carol, that was only printed. I think there was like 500 or 600 copies of the very first print run, and they sold out. And the copy we've got was only printed, I think, 18 months later, and that was the 12th reprint. And those reprints weren't going at just like 500 or 600 by that point. So that's within 2 years that you're looking at several 100,000 copies of one small novel, and it's never been out of print ever since. So I think he knew pretty early on that he was going to be going places, and that reputation would live beyond his time.
Of course, and it does.
Yeah,
very much. Well, listen, Darren, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank you for your knowledge and what you've explained to us, and also not giving away too much of what people will see here, because there is so much more, isn't there? So thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Excellent. Thank you for listening to Broadstairs Live today. You can follow us on various social media platforms and also podcast platforms.